My advice would be to inspect what it is that our kids are involved in. It's not intruding in any of their rights. It's looking out for their well-being. As parents, we all want our kids to do better in life than we ourselves did. And so it's not asking too much to be a little intrusive into what's taking place. It's to keep the lines of communication open with school systems. I think we need to get out of this not wanting to be vulnerable. We want what's best for our kids. And sometimes that means loving them when they don't love themselves and doing things that they don't want us to do for their betterment.
You're listening to the smartsocial.com podcast. This is our District Talk segment where we interview district leaders to learn how they're keeping students safe on social media. And we also ask them questions that we get from parents all over the country in our program. Now, let's get back to the interview.
Hello, Dr. Michael A. Cardona, Superintendent of Schools for San Marcos CISD, located in the beautiful Central Texas area, 30 miles south of Austin, Texas, on the I-35 corridor. We're a school district of about 8,300 students with about 1,300 staff members.
Superintendent, I'm so honored to have you here today. I love Texas and I love Austin and San Antonio, and I'm excited to chat with you here today about how we keep kids safe on social media so they can someday shine online. For all of our viewers here today, welcome. Don't miss our next live events. The superintendent here joined one just a couple days ago, and superintendent, I'd love to give your feedback, but for all the parents listening right now, we're going to talk to you about some of the next live events that are happening because your school district is probably a partner of ours. We'd love to have you. It is vibrant, dynamic. Actually, superintendent, walk me through, what did you think of the event that you attended? Another superintendent was presenting and our team. What were your thoughts on that evening event?
Well, a little bit anxious at first, didn't know really what to expect. But as I said, the next day I walked into my chief of communications office, showed him your replay and said like, hey, this right here, this was a great conversation about a really sensitive topic. Typically, we struggle to get parents into our buildings to engage them in some of these sensitive topics. And I thought the way you all approached it, the research behind everything you were doing, some of the things I learned, I didn't know. And I have 3 young kids, 25, 20, and 19. And I was learning some things with you all. And then to see the community engagement that was taking place, the questions that you were answering that were coming from parents, I thought was a really neat and appropriate way in this day and age to engage parents.
Thank you so much. That's the outcome we're hoping for. Parents and district leaders, if you're watching this, join our next event. Reach out to the team if you have any questions. Okay, superintendent, biggest question I have for you to start off with is, as districts implement cell phone free policies, parents are telling us that they're left in the dark a little bit, begging for strategies they can use to work with their kids at home. What are your suggestions for other districts to increase parent ed, which you talked about we are doing a lot. We're trying to become the world's best at this. And not only parent education, but parent engagement around cell phone use, screen time use, insert XYZ in there. What's your advice?
I think the biggest thing I think that I would do is we have to, number one, yeah, it's about parent education, but listen to what our kids are saying. I mean, here in San Marcos, it was our student leadership group who brought this issue to us and said, hey, we need to disconnect some in the building. And I think when I, as a superintendent, can go back to the board and say, hey, our kids are asking for this. They're asking for us to be cell phone free. I think we need to take that same approach with parents. I think we need to really explain the why, the dangers behind these cell phones and what they do to young minds, like physically altering the chemical structure of what happens with kids and their brain's structure. And I think if we explain to parents the why and we work together, we work with city, county officials to make this kind of a universal thing, I think we won't see instances where we have kids fighting back against their parents, or we won't have parents feeling like they don't know what it is to do. I think if they know what we're doing in schools and the reason why, it's the same approach, right? We want teaching and learning to take place both in the building and at the home.
Yeah, well said. We want teaching and learning to take place both in the building and at home. And I hear this from a lot of superintendents. Josh, if we can just partner with parents, we can overcome any problem because they are our allies, our friends, and so on. I love that. Okay, the next question I have for you is about social media's impact on teens. How are you seeing social media impact teens' self-esteem, motivation, decision-making in your district, both off campus and on campus?
This is a great, great question. I think it's something we deal with, our campuses deal with daily. I can talk about a number of instances, but I think the data point that got my real attention was working with the city San Marcos Police Department and just looking over a 2-year period of what was happening outside of school with students and families. And 80% of our kids that were having issues outside of the building, it was over being disciplined and families trying to take a device away that led to an unfortunate altercation between families that results in a very negative offense. And that kind of spills into the campus and what we're dealing with. And it's become such a big issue here in San Marcos as it is across the nation that our county, our city, our school board, we have what we call the core four working together to have a mental health coalition for youth. And this is a big impact. Social media is no doubt something that we're trying to tackle. It can be anything from cyberbullying to boyfriend girlfriend issues of sending videos to each other and then that being used. We're seeing some of this sextortion things pop up where people are demanding money. Just happened to, family member and coworkers here in the building that they got to rush out of the building because of things happening. It's really something we're grappling with every day. The city I know is dealing with it, the state, the nation is all dealing with it. And I think if we stay together, working together, I think we can solve the issues. It's when we don't get together and communicate that I think these things get exacerbated.
100%. I think your data point that you shared, 80% of students that had an incident at home, it was around screen time. And for all of our listeners right now, the superintendent, I told him this before the broadcast, he's not alone. That is a perfectly normal outcome for a child, a young adult, a kid, however you want to name them, for a human being to get a device that stimulates the brain, the eyes, the dopamine, to then get taken away drastically and rapidly because the parents are trying to do the right thing. They're tough parenting, and we love that. Parents, we're rooting for you to be a difficult parent that loves their kids more than they worry about their kids liking them. That is a perfectly normal outcome for a child to lash out with anger, maybe even violent. I want that back. And it would be the same if it was a drug, if it was cocaine, methamphetamines, all these things that law enforcement friends of Smart Socials say that has the same outcome. You are not alone, parents, if you're watching this right now and your child is lashing out, getting angry, eating differently, only eating snacks, yelling at mom or dad, Mom, Dad, there's only 20 minutes left on the video game. You don't understand. And you're trying to take it away. You're not alone. This is a nationwide epidemic. And we're honored that the superintendent here shares those data points. Superintendent, I want to thank you. Do you have any follow-up advice for parents that are going through this difficult thing of taking away either a device like TikTok on a phone or maybe Fortnite or some other kind of gaming console?
Yeah, I think my advice would be to inspect what it is that our kids are involved in. It's not intruding in any of their rights. It's looking out for their well-being. As parents, we all want our kids to do better in life than we ourselves did. And so it's not asking too much to be a little intrusive into what's taking place. It's to keep the lines of communication open with school systems, wherever you're at. Call your counselor. That's what they're trained for. Every campus, for the most part, has a school counselor. And sometimes it's the outside voice. As a parent, I would tell my child something, and then a teacher would tell them the same thing I did. And my child would listen to the teacher. And I'm looking like, wait, I said the same thing 2 weeks ago. And so I think we need to get out of this not wanting to be vulnerable. We want what's best for our kids. And sometimes that means loving them when they don't love themselves and doing things that they don't want us to do for their betterment.
Wow, that's a pro tip for everybody listening right now. Loving your kid when they don't want to love themselves. What a great tip. So, to all of our listeners and viewers right now, parents are often asking us, Josh, what advice would you give a kid, a student, a teen to help them recognize some of the red flags of a dangerous stranger online? Now, what you're about to see is from one of our live events. The superintendent here attended one last week. If your school district is a partner, please reach out to us, attend one of our events. Hundreds of people join every single week. Let's hear from a real student about how she might help a friend recognize red flags online.
If I had a friend talking online to a stranger, I think that I would feel a little bit uncomfortable with the whole situation. I would advise against it because so many indirect issues can come from that, and it could cause something to be worse than if they had just unadded them in the first place. Some red flags that I would have to advise them to cut it off with this person or to stop engaging would be if the person starts to get very involved in their personal life, and they seem to be very intrigued in what's going on with them and wanting to know all the little details about what they do and who they are, and just very personal details and things that you wouldn't normally share with a stranger in real life. If they're very persistent and constantly wanting to talk to my friend or constantly trying to be involved in their life or wanting to speak to them, I feel like that's kind of a red flag. Another thing would be if they ask them to ever meet them anywhere in person right from the start, if they feel a sense of being uncomfortable or their intuition is just saying it's wrong, or if my intuition is saying something feels wrong with this, then I think that's a major red flag.
This video and hundreds of other videos are available in our platform, parents. If you come to our amazing parent engagement nights, we have different topics, but real teens in the program. Let's actually go through that here real quick. Remember, to all of our partners, we have weekly live parent events and replays on lots of different flavors that are really hot topics, as the superintendent said earlier. Real teens in the program. So you're going to hear from doctors, superintendents, principals, counselors, and teens. Most importantly, parents say, I love the teen voices. Keep the teens going. It helps me get inside their head, and I can learn how to talk to my teen more effectively. Great. We hear you, parents. Also, an incredible parent newsletter. We call it a premium parent newsletter. Here's us on the news. This is how it should happen in your district, superintendents who are watching.
Many kids as young as 10 years old will be unwrapping a cell phone for Christmas, but one school district is offering parents a gift this year, a tool to help them protect their kids using their cell phones.
It's really about safety. It's about safety of our learners.
Right now, College Community says about 400 parents are using the platform smartsocial.com. That's covered by the district's general funding. The hope is to partner with parents so they're able to keep their kids safe.
There's this tool that they didn't grow up with, or they grew up with, maybe one or two apps on that tool. And now their students are living in this world. We just believe that, protecting students is not just confined to the 7-hour school day. Their safety is important to us beyond that.
Smart Social's founder, Josh Oak, says he's been speaking about safety tips at schools across dozens of states, now reaching even more families by hosting live online Q&As and providing parents pointers. The goal, preventing potentially dangerous situations like chatting with strangers and cyberbullying.
You won't be there for them forever. We want to make sure they're resilient and awesome using these new tools, and that they come to you when they need you, and that they make wise decisions when you're not around.
College Community says parents have been giving positive feedback about the program as it continues to track students.
Okay, parents, remember, as you attend, incidence in the district goes down. Let's help superintendents and principals have the best. So as attendance is going up, we're tracking real data nationwide in 40 different states. Incidents are going down. Parents, we are rooting for you here at Smart Social. We love you. And remember, there's not just one topic. We have 50 of these events all year, actually more like 60 or 70, but every single week we're teaching how to shine online, how to avoid strangers, confident, resilient kids in the digital world. And no matter whether parents speak English, Spanish, Mandarin, or one of the other many languages, they can watch a replay of yesterday's stuff in their native language. No one is left behind. Okay, Superintendent, we're back to you. And I'm really grateful for you participating in this live event that we had last week, because I just think it just helps every community. But let's talk about a big one. Yes, I'm positive. We're going to get to a positive question in a sec, because everybody knows I've got the positive books out there. When I left Disney, I wrote a book called Light, Bright, and Polite: How Your Kid Can Shine Online, the things they can do to be positive online. But now let's talk about the dangers. Superintendent, what's your advice to parents and students to avoid talking to strangers and avoiding dangerous situations online?
Great question. I think, again, it goes back to be very involved, be very open with your child. I think transparency with your child, it may be uncomfortable, but kind of delving, asking the questions of who they're with. And I would add not only just strangers, unfortunately, that video you showed of the young lady who was an excellent example of taking care of her friend. We had a similar situation, but it was the staff member with a student, and it was a friend who intervened and got us some information so that we could intervene and exit that adult and call authorities, work with the parent, with counselors, talk to our board members about what happened. So it's not necessarily the stranger issue. It's also paying attention to what's happening in the building with people that you think you know, because unfortunately, sometimes bad things happen. We are not a perfect society, and we just got to be very vigilant. And that starts with having a vulnerability with each other as adult and child. And you want to be respected as a parent, not liked. And there is a difference.
Wow, that's a pro tip. You want to be respected as a parent, not liked. There'll be times when you are liked, maybe, but there's
Yeah.
times where respect is important. And then I also got the key takeaway. Everything is on the table when it comes to having a dialogue around safety and who's that person you're chatting with, right? Superintendent. Hey, who is that person? Have you met him in person? What are they chatting? What's going on online? Let me be a part of that. I think it's really powerful, superintendent.
Correct.
Okay, I want to dive into a positive question. We call it shining online. What advice would you have, Superintendent, for parents and students to help students, teens, kids, any child between 0 to 18 to use social media? Now, parents, let's pause for just a sec. I'm going to read the rest of the question, then I want to get to parent advice before I hear from you, Superintendent, because it's so important in one of our live events. And you saw this to help students use social media in a positive way so they can get the best job and career and college opportunities. Parents, right now, before we answer this, the superintendent was at a live event and I paused and I went full screen and I pushed the other guest experts out and I said, parents, if you're deciding whether to give your kid a phone or you gave it to them over the holidays, which is totally fine, you can give it to them in elementary, middle school, high school, whatever's right for your co-parenting position or whatever you have. We love you. We support you. But I'm holding this up for everybody listening right now on our iTunes and Spotify. When you give your child a phone is not the same time as giving them social media, okay? Just because you gave them a phone, and there is no shame if you did that, but a lot of parents say, I wish I knew that when I gave my kid an iPhone or an Android, I could have delayed Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok by 1, 2, 3 years until they're 16 or 17. So I do want everybody to know those are two separate discussions. Smart Social and many other organizations have a free parent media agreement plan, cell phone, smartphone plan, whatever you want. And it has the 50 questions you ask of your kids that you didn't know to ask. It's like you have an attorney right there in the living room helping to fight for both of your needs and desires and to get the respect you need. Delay the social media till 16, parents. Please, I beg you, have that dialogue and then give them the phone when you want to keep up that communication. Superintendent, thank you for at least letting me have that little PSA. First of all, comment on what I just said. Did I get that wrong? Please set me straight, and then we'll get to the question.
No, you got it 100% right. If I had to do it over again as a parent and I knew what I know now, it would have been here's the device for safety issues, but I'm locking your phone down until you're of age that I feel you've earned the right to be allowed on social media. And back in my day, it was a notebook. You would write things on what we called a slam book, but social media now is the slam book. It is out in the World Wide Web. And so my advice to parents is I think I said this earlier. We all want our kids to do better in life than we did. And what's better than the brand that you're building? That's your child's life. And so the moment they have that phone, that becomes in essence their brand. And that's the conversations we have with our superintendent leadership advisory group. First thing we talk about is what do you want people to remember you by? Everything is trackable now. And so if you have your end goal is to be a doctor, go to the military, go into whatever, those organizations now are backtracking all the way down to middle school. What does it look like for this kid? Is this somebody that I can trust? Am I going to give you a scholarship? Am I going to pay for your training in the military? Am I going to pay for you to be a welder, an electrician? And if they find anything in that pathway that gives them pause not to invest those many thousands of dollars into you, then that's going to affect. And I think the quicker we train our parents in how to use this device appropriately, because it is given access to the world to these children. And once it's out there, can I go back? I think if we do it right, then we're helping those kids build their brand, build their resume, so that when they go on to their next phase in life, we know with reasonable certainty that they're emotionally intelligent and they can carry themselves in a good way.
Yeah, that's a great way to teach kids how to shine online. I love that. Hey, Superintendent, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's been really educating.
Yeah, thanks so much. For all of our listeners here today, whether you're a parent, a guardian, like a grandparent, a co-parent, or you are a teacher, principal, staff member at the district, or a superintendent yourself, we here at smartsocial.com host weekly live events. We want to make you a part of them, just like the superintendent. He attended one last week for free and saw how it works, and it got him thinking differently. He went over to his staff and said, okay, we need something like this. And superintendents, you're watching right now, steal our content, run with it. I mean, within reason, but help save a life in your community. Let us know that you used it. I will sleep better. This is our dream here at smartsocial.com. And as we leave you, remember that parent modeling is every single thing that we do. If you model it right, that gets rid of a lot of the problems. So remember, no matter what you're doing, to keep it light, bright, and polite online because our kids are watching. We'll see all of you on the next episode. Have a great rest of the day. Take care. Thanks for listening to the smartsocial.com podcast. Smart Social helps parents understand technology and social media to keep their kids safe and successful. Be sure to join one of our weekly online live events to become the smartest parent on the block so you can keep your kids safe and protect their future. Also, don't miss our 450 plus online resources and replays you can watch on demand in multiple languages. Are you a school district wanting to unlock these resources for your parents? Reach out to us so we can protect your whole community each week. Have a great rest of the day, and we'll see you on the next episode.